Hey, today I want you to imagine something. Really imagine it. Imagine you're standing in a dark room. The only sound is strange, slow whir of magnetic tape turning. In front of you, a flickering screen, the pale blue light of old film reels, as if they're breathing. A distorted voice breaks through, fragmented by radio static. Houston, this is Eagle, then silence. You step closer. The image trembles into focus. The ghostly silhouette of Apollo 11. The moon's surface washed in cold light, and frames never seen in any broadcast before. You realize this isn't just footage. It's humanity's memory, moments swallowed by time, now resurrecting themselves from silence. A low, distant narration begins. Don't leave. Stay for a while. Because if you leave now, this light will die, and history will once again be buried in darkness. The screen quivers, the light flares, and the reel begins to spin. You stand amid the flickering light, hearing the soft hiss of the projector. This is the first draft, a rusted tape reel, forgotten in a sealed NASA archive, labeled Apollo 11, ungraded, secondary feed. It's the reel that never made it into the official history. Too much static, too many shadows imprinted on every frame. You see the dust clinging to the lens of a long-forgotten Hasselblad camera. Not the golden lunar dust we've all seen, but Earth's dust, the dust of time itself. The lens glides across a behind-the-scenes moment. Not the historic first step, but inside the command module Columbia, right before Eagle detached. You see a gloved hand, weary and thick, tapping on a control panel. The only light comes from green and red signal lamps, casting sharp metallic reflections. You recognize what the public never did. A fragile, human moment, one that nearly shatters the myth of flawless heroism. The tape crackles. A dry click. The image flickers. You're somewhere deep inside the restoration lab at Goddard Space Flight Center. 50 years later, you can smell ozone from high-tech laser scanners fighting to save. Each microscopic grain of silver on a decaying 16mm Ektachrome reel. The screen no longer shows astronauts, but a glowing green waveform. A desperate pulse of video signal, too weak, too drowned in noise. Can you see the noise? It's not just sound. It's a visual symbol. White specks, static streaks like snow falling over a desert. That interference is the wall between us and the complete truth. Each bit of noise, a lost packet of data, an unhearable story. Raw material of history, unfiltered, unchosen. The narration murmurs. They discarded these frames because they weren't clean. They didn't fit the script of immaculate triumph. You return to the reel. The camera angle is lower than usual, perhaps placed on the Eagle's floor, facing upward. You see only the bulky boots of an astronaut, trying to steady himself in near-zero gravity. No words, only the heavy breathing through the radio, the engine whining like a dying metal creature. These are the silent seconds before the Eagle has landed. That silence, recorded on the brink of disintegration, is heavier than any victory speech. It contains every possible failure. This is the reality of fragility. Technology carried humans to the moon, yet the very medium that recorded it was terrifyingly delicate. A single surge of heat or magnetism, and the memory would vanish forever. You see a deep scratch running down the frame, a fissure across the surface of history. Is it a projector flaw, or time itself leaving a scar? The camera lingers on a small detail. A gray electrical cable bound tightly with tape, swaying gently to the rhythm of a breath you cannot see. This moment has no informational value, no historical worth. It's simply proof of effort, of crude tools struggling against infinite space. You ask yourself, what remains when the film ends? Not the proclamations, but this faint hiss of an old tape still trying to tell. A story no one wanted to hear. A story of trial, of error, of the shadows behind the heroes. The screen fades to gray. The reel pauses briefly, but the static continues. The static clings to you, pulling you along. Now, you no longer see astronauts. The lens has turned around, toward the ground crew, those forever pushed into the darkness of the control room. This is the story of the forgotten ones. The camera and the electrician. You see walls filled with machinery. Massive 1960s computers flickering amber warning lights. The image shakes, clearly shot by a handheld Aeroflex 16S, perhaps by a lower-ranked technician. A man crouches beneath the console, hands clutching his head. He's not Gene Kranz in a vest. He's an electrician, an orbital analyst. His pale face lit by the cold fluorescence. The light here is different from lunar light. It's artificial, the bluish hue of anxiety and sleepless nights. You see a bead of sweat on the man's temple, suspended midair, glittering like a diamond under the radar glow. This shot was discarded for being too human, too raw for NASA's image of precision. The narration insists, "We remember the man who flew the ship, but forget the man who ran the camera, who pressed record, who chose what to keep and what to erase." The footage speeds up slightly, not from error, but from the restoration process resequencing fragments. You're watching the filming of the filming. A team works around a tower of tapes, each wearing goggles and white gloves. Their movements are gentle, surgical. They are electricians, repairers, restorers. Silent souls preserving humanity's memory. You notice the calluses on their hands, a sharp contrast to the sterile room around them. The visual motif here is resolution, the tension between clarity and blur. Some restored frames are astonishingly sharp, every fiber of the astronaut's suit visible. But in the next shot, a handheld snippet of the control room. The image turns grainy, dim, uncertain, like a fading recollection. You see a forgotten portrait. The backup astronaut. He stands alone in a corridor, flight suit on, shoulders slumped. Light from a window cuts across his face, half in hope, half in the shadow of replacement. He's a hero who never took off. The camera lingers too long. Perhaps the cameraman felt the same quiet ache. Who is remembered and who is forgotten? The question becomes sharper as you watch a close-up of restoration. A young technician brushes mold from the film's edge, rescuing 1/3 of a second of history. His name will never appear in textbooks. He is a cog in a vast machine, an anonymous guardian of memory. This is the human pattern worth exploring, silent devotion. They did not walk on the moon, but they kept the moon's story alive. Without them, these reels would have turned to dust. You glimpse a crumpled note on the control room floor, caught in frame for a split second, written hastily in blue ink. Oxygen pressure, nominal, but holding breath. It's instinct, raw truth unfit for the record. A crack of emotion beneath the steel veneer of professionalism. The voice softens, careful not to disturb the tape. Do you feel the weight of that camera in your hands? It's not heavy because of metal, but because of the burden of remembering what will be forgotten. The footage jumps to another scene. Official documentarians lining up to film the astronauts' return. But our camera looks elsewhere. To a truck loading old film canisters. Boxes tossed carelessly into a dark corner. The beginning of forgetting lies in this frame. Black screen. The projector hums on. Its sound sharpens, as though the lens has been wiped clean. You're pulled into a visual dialogue. Interference of light, between sterile and organic. The lens zooms on the moon's surface. Too close, too focused. You see fine silver dust, sharp as glass under raw sunlight. Beautiful, lifeless. Then, a contrasting image. An 8mm reel forgotten in Colombia, showing breath condensing on a window. The astronauts living warmth. Fragile and human. The visual symbol here is reflection. You see the moon reflected in a helmet visor. Not the flag, not the ship, but the infinite black. In that curved visor, space itself seems to swallow man. It's too honest, cut from the official archive. The narration slows. Apollo 11 was a box of circuits and steel, but it carried fragile creatures who sweat and gasp. This film captured the collision of two worlds. A hairline crack appears on Eagle's panel, a scar illuminated by red light. Technology isn't perfect, it bleeds too. A close shot shows Neil Armstrong, scoop in hand, collecting rock samples. Not posing, but working. Light overexposes his movements, yet his focus glows through. He is a scientist, not a symbol. Back on Earth, engineers wrap cables with black tape, keeping the universe intact with something handmade and temporary. The cabin scene's slow. An astronaut tries to sleep, face creased with exhaustion. Even unseen, you sense his steady breathing. A body seeking peace in a world designed against it. If organic life always leaves a trace, which trace of ours will outlast the metal? A beam of light passes through a tear in the reel, forming a small rainbow. A brief ghost of color, proof that brilliance once existed. Later, restored footage shows astronauts testing instruments before descent. Tiny, precise gestures that meant survival. A dance of trust between human flesh and machine. The screen flashes white, then dims. Now you enter the lost frame, the burden of perfection. The lens becomes a thief, capturing moments the astronauts never meant to show. Footage rejected for being too human. One astronaut struggles with his helmet, frustrated, slapping his headset. His flushed face, real and imperfect, deleted for breaking the myth. The symbol here is the shadow of solitude. Michael Collins, orbiting alone behind the moon, filmed himself with a silent 16 millimeters. No radio, just the camera motor's faint whir. Earth, small, blue, distant. Then his own face, half lit, half hidden. The narration whispers. He was the loneliest man in history. This tape is his quiet confession. The moment he realized he was the gatekeeper to greatness, but forever apart from it. A fleeting scene shows an astronaut choking on water. In zero gravity, droplets floating like glass. Too clumsy for propaganda, too human for myth. A piece of tape on the camera reads, "Don't look down." Maybe a technical note, maybe a private prayer. A blurred object drifts, a small book, maybe a Bible, maybe a photo. The system blurred it intentionally, stripping away the personal from public record. How perfect must we be to feel safe? The noise now fades, not gone, but transformed into false stars. Marks of destruction mistaken for beauty. A cut sequence, Armstrong smiling, wide, unguarded. Right after the radar malfunction. A smile of release, not pride, and therefore erased. The image dims. Energy wanes. You've passed 4 chapters of the reel. The last light trembles weakly. Fracture of memory when the film stops. Restoration fails. Colors glitch, green, red, black. Not digital errors, but chemical scars. The tape jams, screams, then silence. The story ends. The voice drifts. Hundreds of meters of tape are gone. We can save the image, but not the emotion. Memory can be digitized, but truth remains on the decaying magnetic strip. The visual symbol here is fading. Still frames show astronauts cleaning the cabin. Colors wash to jade, gray, lavender, the hues of forgetting. You study the contrast between myth and ruin. A burn mark on Columbia's hull. A tiny meteor scar, omitted from reports. Proof of luck, not perfection. An old technician examines film under a magnifier. His eyes weary, reverent. To him, this isn't history, it's life's raw material. He is the keeper of what's been forgotten. What cannot be restored? The lost original audio. You see lips move, but hear only static. A story without a tongue. Perhaps a joke, a confession, a curse. We will never know. The final footage collapses. Abstract color fragments. No figures, no ships. The death of image itself. Yet in the center glints one stubborn speck of light. A reflection off metal. Memory refuses to die. You wonder, if we recovered every reel, would we learn more about humanity? Or just about our machines? The film slows, stutters. The projector sighs like a living thing. The last image, a simple door latch inside the cabin. A piece of metal, a barrier between life and void. Once ignored, now sacred. The light fades to amber, the color of an old burn. No shapes remain, only drifting specks like dust in a dying sunbeam. Emptiness spreads. Space is emptiness, the emptiness of unsaid words. Thousands of frames recovered, and what lingers is silence. The tape stops. A long pause. Only the faint scent of ozone, and the cold seat beneath you. The last image persists. A glint on a metal lock. Not the grand light of history, but the small, personal light of survival. A final whisper. Perhaps what's forgotten never truly disappears. It merely waits for someone patient enough to watch until the very end.